Human has been neutralized.
Hi guys, this time we're going to take a look at some of the different keyboard layouts available. The layout describes how the keys are arranged on the keyboard. The size of the keyboard, such as 100% or 60%, is called the form factor, which is what we're going to look at in the next QKT video instead. The American layout is called ANSI. It's easily recognized by the long horizontal enter key and the long backslash key above it. It looks relatively symmetrical, and because it puts the enter key within relatively easy reach of the pinky, it's very popular with touch typists. The original ANSI layout on the Model M had 101 keys, and with Windows keys it goes to 104 keys. Most European countries use the ISO layout, which tends to vary from country to country. The Netherlands is an exception, as they generally use ANSI instead. The ISO layout has a more vertical enter key, which takes up more space than the ANSI enter. Many of the symbols are slightly rearranged, and the backslash key is next to the left shift, which is much shorter than on the ANSI layout. So there's basically an extra key on the keyboard, which is often necessary as most languages use a lot more special characters than the English language does. The ISO enter key is harder to reach for touch typists, so they tend to prefer ANSI, but it's easier to hit for non-touch typists, which is why people like me often prefer it. The Asian layout is a combination of both. The enter key, often nicknamed a big-ass enter key for its size, is a combination of the ANSI and ISO enter keys, and that makes it extremely easy to hit for both touch typists and non-touch typists. The problem is that this enter takes up the space of two keys, so the extra key is often put next to the backspace key, which is made very short to compensate. The short backspace is often considered extremely annoying, and it's one of the reasons many people hate big-ass enters. It's kind of uncommon to find this layout with Windows keys, but it does exist. An alternative to the Asian layout is what I've nicknamed the Focus layout, because it was widely used by Focus Electronic. This also uses a big-ass enter, but instead of putting the extra key inside of the backspace, it puts it inside of the right shift like this. Some Win-keyless versions put them between the Control and Alt keys instead, but the split right shift version is the most well-known one. It's a very practical layout in my opinion, as it gives the benefit of an easily hittable enter key without compromising on the backspace. The Japanese use a different layout called the JIS layout, which has 106 or 109 keys. Because the Japanese language uses a lot of different characters, the spacebar is broken up into 4 different keys, a much smaller spacebar and 3 modifiers that access different sets of characters. The rest is kind of a combination of different layouts. It uses the long left shift from the ANSI layout, the vertical enter from the ISO layout, the single unit backspace from the Asian layout, and a split right shift from the Focus layout, although the extra key is on the inside rather than the outside. The HHKB uses a very different form factor of itself, but also has a very different layout. Because there's so few keys, it uses a function key to access a second layer of keys, which is put next to a split right shift like on the Focus layout. It uses an ANSI enter, but instead of a backslash key, the backspace key, called delete, is above it. The backspace position houses symbol keys instead. Also notably, the control key is where caps lock normally goes, which is what it used to be like in the early 80s. The HHKB apparently has a layout that's very Unix friendly or something, so it's often used by programmers. There are some legacy layouts as well, which have been superseded since the 80s. The most notable of them were the AT layout, which is what the Asian layout was based on, with a big-ass enter and small backspace key, but it had only 10 F keys and they were on the left. Like the HHKB, the control key was where the caps lock key goes, and the bottom row was rather sparsely populated, which led to enormous space bars. And then there was the XT layout, which is even older and weirder, which is a bit messy actually. Well, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and check back next time when we're going to have a look at some of the different form factors you can get.
Human has been neutralized.